I'll be honest with you guys, it's probably going to be a year or two before we see, any kind of stabilization in the interest rates. In the meantime, when you see builders, you know what builders do in order to make money, right? What do builders do? They buy land and they build new homes, right? That's their way of making money. But if I told you right now that builders are actually backing out of their contracts to buy land, there was a one builder. I don't know if it was DR Horton, or if it was, I think it might have been DR Horton, or it might have been Toll Brothers. They just backed out
Horton.
of a contract so big that they paid a $24 million termination agreement to back out.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh my
crazy
God,
amount of
that's
money, right?
crazy.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
DH Horton.
it was DH Horton. Okay, yeah, and
Mhm.
on top of that, what these companies are doing now, instead of buying more land, is that they're buying their stock back because the stock is more undervalued than the land is. Does that make sense to you guys, right? Because they are literally buying back their own company shares because the shares are cheaper to them right now than the actual land value is. So what they're basically seeing is that, hey, we can make more money right now not building and just buying our stock, because we know that once the economy does improve, our stock will go up and we'll make more money on our stock than we will on building homes, right? So what does that tell us? That tells us that number one, they're hurting right now because they're obviously that no one's really looking to buy new construction that much unless it's a true necessity. And number two, they don't see that the market's going to be improving anytime soon, because builders usually build 6 months to a year out, right? So if they start breaking ground today on a project, they're not going to have the first home built to like 6 months out or a year out. And so what they're thinking right now is that, hey, for the next year or so, we don't see things improving. So we're just going to buy our stock. Pretty crazy, right? So if we've got, these billion-dollar companies kind of giving us all this free information, all this free consulting, what do we do to prepare in an economy like this? What do we do for the next year and a half? We don't have the luxury of buying our stock back as real estate agents, right? We don't have stock that we can buy back. I mean, we could buy our company stock, which is pretty much on sale, the cheapest probably I've ever seen it since the pandemic. But what else could we do besides, just become investors? Can we actively, instead of just passively, take advantage of this market? And the answer to that is absolutely, because during these markets is when you're going to see the most opportunity, When I have agents calling me who are seasoned agents who have been busy the last 2 years, and now telling me, hey, I'm not having that many buyers calling me anymore. What's going on? It feels a little weird out there. Well, then what that tells me is that, hey, you've got an opportunity right now, because when you have more time on your hands, that means you have more opportunity on your hands too. Because when you have no time, you have zero opportunity, right? So with more time, it's going to give you the ability to start doing some research, start figuring out, hey, how do I become more valuable in this market? Who's making the money in this market right now? What can I learn from someone in California? What can I learn from someone in Canada who is crushing it? What are they doing? What's going on here? And I mean, before, when I first got started working with sellers, and I feel like that's when I really became a true business person in the sense of a real estate agent, because there are two kinds of real estate agents. You got real estate agents that are order takers, which the majority of us start off that way because we're just waiting for someone to give us a charity case. We're just waiting for someone to say, hey, we're looking for buy a house. Hey, we're looking to list a house. We don't know anything about marketing. We don't know anything about prospecting. Well, most of us don't start off that way. But when I started taking my business into my own hands, and I said, hey, today I need to figure out, how do I get more business from my active pursuit of getting more business than from other people's generosity in the form of referrals? How do I do that? So I started researching when, there wasn't much on YouTube at that time. I think it was 2015. Was it 15, 13? 2013. I started researching online, like, okay, what are people doing to get listings? Because I need to get listings. Now that I made that decision to myself, I made that mental decision. I'm not doing this buyer thing anymore. What are agents that are successful doing? So I started listening to podcasts. I started watching videos. I started just trying to absorb everything I could, but I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was too busy running around with buyers. Well, now we don't have to take that active decision because we don't have as many buyers anyway. So what do we do with our time? We should start and look for ways to sharpen our swords. That way we can go out there and be more effective. So when you figure out what's working for others now and what you could feel comfortable trying yourself, you need to start working on that and doubling down on that. Now, keep in mind, whatever you learn, whatever it is that you're going to learn, you're not going to be good at it in the beginning. Whether that's prospecting or doing mailing campaigns or doing YouTube ads or doing whatever it is that you see out there that looks interesting and promising. I can't give you the answer to what's going to work for you. But what I will tell you is this: it's not going to work in the beginning because you just don't have the experience with it, right? You could do one or two things. You can hire a coach, and maybe we'll ask Sarah, how her coaching experience has been. She hired a coach recently. Or you can literally just start figuring things out for yourself. It'll take you a little bit longer, it'll cost you less money. But if you don't have the money to invest in a coach, you need to put in the sweat equity and just basically do it yourself, right? Figure it out. Now you will eventually get good at whatever it is that you want to try to do, but just make sure it's something you're willing to stick to, right? For me, I knew that what I saw across the board, which worked in 2013, was prospecting. And I said, you know what, I'm going to prospect until I figure out how to get good at it. And I'll tell you right now, I was horrible at it in the beginning. I was really, really bad at it. I remember that when we first tried prospecting, my friend and I, we had an office together. We picked up the yellow book. We set up a night. We called it, we got the idea from another real estate company that used to do this. And they used to just have like these phone blitzes. And what they did is they used to just get the yellow book, and they used to, like, if you guys don't know what that is, like the yellow pages, like a phone book. And I don't even know where we got one, right? It was 2013, but we found one. And we said, we're gonna have a phone blitz night, and we're just gonna call people out of the phone book. So we did that, and it was a blind leading the blind. It was horrible. Our agents didn't know what to say. We didn't know what to say. We would call, I don't even know how many people we called, because dialing one person at a time is very inefficient. So we'd be calling people and literally had no dialogue. We had no close. We had no inclination that they wanted to sell at all. It was just a horrible experience. So we wrote it off as a loss, and we're like, oh, this prospecting thing doesn't work, right? So I could have done that and said, you know what, I see everyone prospecting, but I tried it and it didn't work for me. And that's what I'm trying to explain to you, is that there's going to be times when you're going to see something that works for others that doesn't work for you immediately. And it's because you haven't given it enough time. You haven't really refined yourself. You haven't refined the craft, the art. And when I really kind of started digging deeper and I did the research, because we had no research done, we just heard that a real estate company had done this, and they were successful to an extent. I don't even know how successful they were. So what I did was I said, well, what if I didn't just call people randomly? What if I called people that might actually have a need to sell? And so I started thinking about, okay, all these people calling expireds. They're calling for sale by owners. They're calling people who tried to sell, at one point or another, a year ago, 2 years ago, and weren't successful. Maybe I can try, like, there's so many different people that I tried reaching out to. And then sooner or later, I figured out, okay, so the demographic matters. Who you call makes a big difference. So I improved that. Then I improved the fact that you can make more calls if you use a dialer, and I started using a dialer. Then I learned that, hey, when I get better at what I'm saying, I'm getting a better result. So after time went by and I made calls for like a month, I finally got one lady who said yes, and I was so happy. I was like thrilled. I ran over to her house quicker than you can imagine. And I was there and within like minutes at her house. And I just learned from there, and it just became an addictive process, to the point where I remember one day I was out with one of my agents, and I said to the agent, I said, hey, listen, can you just think about this for a second? Let's quantify what we're doing. I looked at everything as a math problem. So I said, if we're making 100 calls a day and we're getting 3 listing appointments a week, and we walk away, let's say maybe 2 out of 3 of them, then 2 listings a week, what if we made 200 calls a day? What if we made more calls? Like, and then we just, my mind just started running, and it got I became very good at it. I became very, very good at it, but it didn't happen in the first day, the first month. It took time. So whatever it is that you're going to do now in order to bridge your business from the market that we've been used to, where it's been very easy shooting fish in a barrel, basically, or whatever you call it, and now getting towards possible recession in our market. We are in a recession, but how deep that recession is going to go is anyone's guess. How do you bridge that market or that headspace that we've been in to the next one that we're going into, right? And the answer is that we don't know. Nobody knows. But what we do know is that things always change, and especially in real estate, things are cyclical and they have nuances. So, for instance, if I took a year off of real estate and I came back, things would be different, and they just are. They always change, even though a lot of things stay the same, but a lot of the techniques change, right? So this market is going to be full of new opportunities, new things on the horizon that are going to allow you to now become a better version of the real estate agent that you thought you were going to be, or the real estate agent that you thought was the right way to do it for the last year or two. Now it's going to be something more competitive. There's going to, when I say competitive, I don't mean so much with other agents. I mean you against the market, because there's going to be a lot of people getting out of the business, to an extent where I heard a statistic recently that I believe it's, I forget, I think it's in California. There is a real estate board in California who I think normally processes, and I heard this just last week, they normally process 150 new applicants a month to their board. Okay, so pretty healthy board. But recently they said that their numbers have dropped down to 70 new applicants a month. Okay, so that's a pretty significant difference, right? That's like 50% reduction in the amount of agents. But what's crazy is that they're reporting 40 new terminations daily. So 40 times what, 20 days out of the week, out of the month they probably work, right? So let's just say that's what, 40 times 20, that's 800 agents leaving the business in just that one board alone. So now just look at those numbers across the country. Agents are not going to be your problem. Competition is not going to be your problem going into this new market that we're going. The competition is going to be you against your mind, because your mind is going to be telling you, oh, the economy sucks, no one's calling, I shouldn't be investing in marketing, I shouldn't be doing this because I got to hold on to every dollar, because times are going to get lean, times are going to get rough. This is the time when you should be investing in marketing, or you should be exposing yourself more, because number one, ads are cheaper, and number two, there's going to be more inventory for your clients to pick from if you're working with buyers, or if you're going to work with sellers, then you're really going to need to figure out, okay, what is going to make me stand out? Now that I have less competition, if I invest in my presentation, if I invest in my appearance, if I invest in my wardrobe, whatever it is that I'm investing in, I know it's going to make a big difference because I have less competition on the horizon. So I'm going to be definitely reaping the benefits of my sacrifice right now. So think about what you could do to become a better agent. So let's just say we do get more opportunities and we're sitting in front of a potential seller. And this has happened to me many times. We're sitting with a seller, very pleasant. Everyone's always pleasant when you show up to their house, right? If you got that far, and you show up to the house and they show you this home that they have, to an extent, kept very good condition. You know, I'm going to talk about just the majority of the circumstances you're probably going to see. A very nicely kept home, not super renovated, but not like a dump either, right? Just like a normal home. But the problem with those people a lot of times is they have so much sentimental value attached to their home, and they add that value into their property, even though it shouldn't have it, right? Because just because you lived here doesn't give it more value to the next person. Really, is what a lot of first-time sellers, or maybe even repeated sellers, they don't get that through their mind. So how do you, as an agent, kind of not offend them in a way where it's almost not, this is not worth that much, and it doesn't matter, you raised your kids here, it's just not worth it. How do you, as a salesperson, a professional listing agent, how do you get them to agree with your numbers and eliminate the emotional value that they attach to the home? And can anyone give me any advice on what they would do to separate emotion from facts? What would you kind of do in order to be able to be successful in doing that? What would be your process? Can anyone help me with that?
Facts and comps.
Yeah, numbers talk,
Yes.
you know.
Oh yeah,
You're gonna bring,
absolutely.
you know, I usually bring comps that's from my coaching course. We learned to bring comps that's same value, above and under. So you show them, if you're gonna list it at this value, you have to have this, that, and the other thing, because that's what this house sold for. But it has the pool and the finished basement. And then you show them something that was sold and it's very similar to their home. So you kind of bring them back to earth.
That's true. That's very true. And that's not the entire equation. That's part of the equation, right? Because if I said to you, oh, I just raised my kids here, and you know, we just had a grandchild, and this home is just like, it means everything to me, and I want 500,000, even though you know it's worth 450, right? So I want 500,000 for this home. And if you immediately came to me and said, okay, but look at the comps sound this, that, you're going to turn me off because
Yes.
because you haven't built any rapport yet.
True.
You haven't made me warm up to you yet. So I think before we get to that part of the numbers, because numbers are important, but I would prefer for them to ask me about the numbers than me shove them down their throat. Because if I do that, they're going to feel like, oh, so here's someone just wants to sell my house and be in and out of here as quickly as possible, right? So never forget the part where you need to kind of get them to trust you first before you pull out any numbers. Belinda, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I would, when we get to that point, I start asking them, what is it that they're looking for? Where are they going next?
Yeah.
I divert it to get them to talk about what's their next desire. Because
Yeah.
once you shift the focus on that, then their house becomes a little less important.
There you go.
And where they're going to trumps all.
Yeah, one of the best ways to build rapport is to ask questions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, take them on that mental journey, right? Where do they want to go? Where is it that they want to, why is it that they're selling their home? And where would they like to be? And why would they want to be there? And what does that mean to them? What does that chapter look like in their life? Another great way to get people to trust you is also to become a great storyteller. How many of you consider yourselves a great storyteller?
Me, I use other people's stories because I don't have many.
Good. We would love to hear one. We would love to hear one because this is one of the most undervalued skills in any business, not just real estate. Any business, any circumstance in life, if you want to get your way, in most cases, if you tell a good story, people will listen. People will work with you. People will open up. There's been studies done on this, that if you go up to someone and you ask for something, so for instance, hey, can I cut you in line? You're in your grocery store, you say, can I cut you in line? They're gonna look at you like, no, you can't cut me in line, right? But if I go to that same person and say, hey, listen, I'm sorry, I left my dog in my car and it's like 100 degrees out there. Could I just cut you in line? Because I got to pay for just a few things. Oh, sure, go ahead. Why? Because I just told them a story. I didn't just ask for something. I came with a story. So now imagine if you became even a better storyteller and you capture someone's interest, bring them with you through a journey, but you learn how to tell a story where it's not like, okay, you're all over the place. You tell a concise story that is within their realm of interest, because you don't want to tell them a story about something you have zero interest in, right? So if they're telling you about their grandchild and how important it is for them to sell this home and move into a beach house, right? And then that's the story that they're interested in. If you start telling them about a story about a dog you just found on the street last week and you brought him into a shelter, that's not a relevant story. So you got to make sure that the story you're about to tell is in line with what their thought pattern is, and also with the conclusion that you want them to come to, right? So, Sarah, if you were walking in and taking my listing, and I just told you about my kids and all this stuff that I just raised in this home and how we've had Christmas here every year since 1999, what would you kind of say to that? Do you have any good stories for me about other clients that you would share with me to kind of help me understand where it is that you want to price, kind of more along the lines of where I should be priced at, or maybe when I should be selling my home? Is there anything you could say to me in a story form instead of just telling me?
I'm trying to think. It's a lot that you threw a lot at me right now.
I understand. You can make one up, and just to kind of give us an idea.
Are you moving to a bigger house or a smaller house now?
Yeah, so this is what we're thinking about doing, Sarah. We're thinking about selling this house, right? And it's just me and my wife now. We have 5-bedroom home. It's too big for us, and our knees are starting to get bad. So we're looking to buy a home down the shore, something smaller. And we just want to sell this property, even though it's been our family home for the last 20 years. We have a lot of sentimental value here, but we just, I know it's the best thing for us is part ways. So we're thinking about $500,000 for the house. That's more or less what we want to do.
I'm trying to think. I don't know where to go from here. I mean, I don't know where to go from here. I'm serious.
Yeah, sure. I mean, do you have okay, let me ask
I
you
mean,
this.
it's nice that you lived here and you made all these memories. I do have a client that listed their house with me last month, same situation. We did close on their home down in Thomas River. They bought it all cash. They're very happy, and they're starting to make new memories in their new home. Now, in regards to your house, I know it means so much to you, and I see how it's well kept and it looks so beautiful. Take me around. Let's take a look.
Okay, good. Now, go ahead, continue.
And then after we look at it and we come back, I'm gonna sit next to him on the couch or on the kitchen table, and I'm gonna tell him, I want to show you some things that I prepared, and then we're gonna put our minds together and come up with a good number.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I call a skeleton story, because that story right there has information, but it has nothing that really grasps me as a human. It didn't really take me on that journey with you. So for instance, let's just give a little more substance to that story. And this is not going to be obviously scripted or perfect or anything like that. I'm just going to give you all just a little bit more information on how to tell a good story. So for instance, I just gave that whole spiel to Sarah. Now, if I was Sarah and I wanted to tell a better story on that story she just said, I can say, I totally get it. I've got this young couple, Julie and Philip, and they've been my friends for a long, long time. I met them in church, great people. They have 2 young children of their own. And last year, I think it was 2020, right after the pandemic kind of hit, or yeah, when the pandemic really started to hit off, they wanted to sell their home, just like you. Same similar home as yours, as a big Victorian and gorgeous place. And they told me that they wanted to sell it for X amount. They wanted to sell it for 500,000 as well. And I warned them against this because I knew that the market was kind of still very soft. So I said to them, hey, listen, I think we should probably price this at 450, because even though I know you have a lot of emotional value here, a lot of sentimental value here, let's go ahead and just price it at like 450, because if we do a 450 number, you'll be right in line with the other homes in this area, and you're going to be more likely to get an offer. Now, they didn't want to take my advice at first. And then they thought about it and they told me, maybe this is not the right move for us. And they considered talking to other real estate agents. So I gladly left and I said, no problem, talk to as many real estate agents as you like. Right. So then one day I get the call from them and they said, you know what, Sarah, we're going to list it with you because out of all the agents, you're the only one who told us the truth about the comps. Everyone else just yesed us to death. And we thought about it and we're like, do we want an agent who just wants to tell us what we want to hear, or do we want an agent who actually gives us the truth? So what we're going to do, Sarah, and what I agreed to do with them was we split it down the middle and we listed it at 475. But they agreed that if it didn't sell for 475 within the first 2 weeks, that we would immediately do a price reduction to 450. And what I'll tell you is the minute we dropped that house to 450 on the second week, we got 3 offers and we went with the highest one and we closed 2 weeks later. So I kind of don't want you guys to go through that same 2-week period where we had to just test the market. I would say that if we're underpriced, we're going to get above asking offers anyway. So what would you like to do? Is there something that you think you could do to this house to make it sell quicker other than the price? And then you leave it in their hands. Ask them the question. Well, we were thinking about renovating the kitchen. Okay, so do you want to renovate the kitchen for someone else to enjoy? Because it's kind of a pain in the butt not having a kitchen to live out of, while you're still in the house. Oh, you're right, Sarah, you got a point. And then sooner or later, they just come to their own conclusion that selling the home at 450 is probably the right thing to do. But you see how I took your story, Sarah, and I added more substance to it, and I brought them with me because I gave them names, I gave them dates, I gave them the story, I gave them the climax where I lost the listing, and then he called me back, and then I gave them the conclusion, and then you see how it kind of tied everything back together to getting the price that I wanted.
Your story is much better.
Yeah. Well, everyone could be a better storyteller if we just take our time and just maybe think about what we want to tell. What kind of a picture we want to paint. Believe it, guys, before we had television, internet, all that stuff, people used to talk to each other and people used to tell stories. That's basically how we've always, as humans, have always entertained each other, by listening to stories. Ever so much that the leaders of tribes, when we were more tribal in nature, were always the best storytellers, right? It's always the people who sat around a campfire and told stories, right? That's why we're so fascinated with a good story. That's why we were talking about the Anna story in the beginning of when we first jumped in here, or the Watcher story, or any story that we watch on television or on internet nowadays, you know, it's because the story is so good. The story captivates you and brings you on that journey. And that's what we want to kind of do as well. We want to mimic all these things that have been constantly given to us, but we would never really recognize them. We never realize what it is that we're watching because we're not observing it. But we can all become better storytellers by watching what we watch. So if you guys are interested in watching shows on TV, or maybe you have a favorite YouTuber, podcaster, or whatever, listen next time, listen to it differently and watch it differently and try to dissect if you're being told a story, and if that's why you're being captivated so much. And then you can learn how to tell better stories by not being more of an observer of what we watch instead of just being a viewer, right? If you're an observer, you take away from what you're watching, and then you can implement that on your everyday conversations, on your everyday life, on your videos. If you guys create videos as well, we just got to learn how to become better storytellers, and then we'll be able to captivate people more longer, and we'll be able to get people to want to work with us because they'll feel some kind of connection to us, but they can't understand why. They don't understand how or what it is that draws them to you. But if you can do more of that and you can tell more stories, you've got them. You've got them. So what do you guys think about that? How many of you guys feel like you could still improve on your storytelling?
I'm willing.
Yeah. There's plenty of courses out there. There's plenty of people on YouTube for free that teach you how to tell a better story. It's an art. It's truly an art. If you guys have the time to do it, I strongly recommend you take a Toastmasters class. I think it's probably like $20 a year to be a member of Toastmasters. It's a public speaking class, but what I love about it is that they teach you how to tell a story. Because when you're a public speaker, it's not just about getting up there and reading PowerPoint. That's not a public speaker. That's more of a person that's just, I don't know, reading from a script. And you guys know how horrible it is to hear someone on stage or at a wedding reading from a script or reading from notes. It's painful to watch them do that because they're uncomfortable and they make you uncomfortable. But when you learn the gift of storytelling, you could command an audience for hours and hours and hours and hours. If you've ever heard Tony Robbins speak, that man goes on stage for 10 hours sometimes. And the whole time, you know what he's doing? Take a guess.
Telling stories.
Story after story after story. That's all he does, is he just tells stories for 10 hours. And everyone's captivated. It's crazy. Unbelievable. Right? Same thing goes for, Brent's on this call. Brent's a pastor. He went up there and he'd be up there for a half an hour to an hour, and he'd tell a great story to make his point. Everybody who commands an audience, anybody who commands attention has to learn how to tell that story. So if you can learn anything that's going to make you more valuable within this new economy that we're coming into, is become a better storyteller, or first, I challenge you to do this. Learn how to tell your story first. And then if you can tell your story, that will be your first introduction to becoming a better storyteller, because who knows your story better than you? Nobody, right? So the topic is the easiest one, your story. So if you could learn your story and tell it in a captivating way, next time you do a listening presentation, do you think you'll be more effective or less effective? So, Belinda, tell me about yourself. Oh, I've been in real estate for 20 years, and yeah, this is not my first rodeo, and I've sold about 100 homes. Okay, that's all great and superficial and all, but did I really tell my story? And I'm not saying you're not a good storyteller, Belinda. I'm just giving people an example of what a lot of times agents go there and say, as opposed to, well, thank you for asking. I'm really appreciative of that, because most people don't take the time to want to know about, why I'm doing this or why I'm even in front of you today. But let me just tell you this story. When I was younger, I never had a home of my own. My family never had a home. We used to live in apartment pretty much every year was a different apartment. So I looked at home ownership as kind of like something that was only available to the extremely rich. And I thought that real estate agents were absolute superheroes. And that was the way I grew up until I was about 18 years old, and my family was able to afford their first home ever. And it was the biggest achievement I've ever seen in my entire life up to that point. And I was in love with the business ever since then. And then when I became 21, 22, I then was able to purchase my own home. And then I told maybe that story, right? So if you can tell a story of why you're doing what you're doing, as opposed to just your stats, because anyone could read off stats. But if you could come up with a really good story of why your origin is, about why why you're in real estate, or why you want to help that family, and why it means so much to you to help that family, then you just become a little bit better than everyone else, in my opinion, because you can go head to head with someone who is the #1 agent in the area. And if you could tell a story better than them, they're going to like you better. They're definitely going to like you. You can even bring people to tears if you know how to tell a story good enough. Right. So there's a few agents here who know what I'm talking about. Right. A few agents here. Every Monday, every single Monday, and at our physical location office at Culture, we used to have a similar meeting to this, but we used to call it our mastermind speech as well, because every Monday we'd have a new agent. Sometimes agents would go twice because they wanted to update theirs, but we would have our Monday morning mastermind speech, which means that someone went up there and became basically a storyteller for 10, 15, 30 minutes sometimes, and just basically gave their story, told their story. And there'd be people who would break down and cry, and other people were crying and in the audience just watching them, because they were so just caught up in the moment with the story. It just taught everyone how to become a much better communicator. Because if you can give a speech about your life and your experiences in front of an audience, you can do anything, because most people are paralyzed with fear of talking in front of people. But when you can craft a good story, you can go and tell it. Not only will it really make you dig deep within yourself, but it'll also make other people more inspired. So everybody was scared of this in the beginning, but then after, like a few people went, a few people cried, and they were so overjoyed afterwards, and everybody just felt better and more connected afterwards, more people would do it. And every Monday, a different person would do it. So I challenge everyone here to learn your story. And then next time you're with a client, if they ask you, or if the opportunity comes up to tell your story and see what that does for your business, right? I'm going to give you a great example. Is that when one of the first few masterminds I did was about your story, and I asked one of our agents to tell me about his story, and he told me some very superficial story. And I said, "Listen, didn't you survive one of the most deadliest forms of cancer?" "Yeah, I did." Why aren't you telling people this?" He's like, "You're right." And then the next week he came in and he told one of the best stories about himself, and that has been part of his listening presentation for the last, I don't know how many years he's been in the business now, but it's captivated people to the point where they're like, "Where do I sign? Where do I sign?" That guy has probably one of the highest signing ratios of anybody I know. It's because he learned his own story. He embraced his story. What some people would probably be ashamed of talking about has become his why. So many people have said, "Oh, my mom went through similar cancer," or my loved one, or some, like people have connected. Even if you don't have anyone who's gone through cancer, you could sympathize with the person who has survived that, and they have a strong why. So when you figure that out, guys, I guarantee you, selling anything will be very, very easy. So just think about what I said earlier. You can get much more out of life if you tell people a reason, which is basically a story. And if you become a master storyteller, or maybe you become a proficient storyteller, not even a master, because that probably takes a lifetime. Probably Brent is probably the only master storyteller I know on this call. But if you could become a master storyteller, you can really become amazing at sales, because then it doesn't become selling. It just becomes connecting. It just becomes storytelling, which is second nature when you become a master at it. Right. So that's pretty much what I want to talk to you guys about today. That's what I wanted to kind of bring to your attention. Brent, go for it. Go for it, Brent.
Just to underscore what you're saying, John Maxwell would pat you on the back right now. And in that book, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and other places, John does a great job remarketing himself and selling it over and over and over. But he talks about the fact that it's almost impossible to be a success if you're dealing with anyone other than yourself. So if you're a recluse, but if you're doing anything with people, people always relate to the story within you, is how he says it. So when you challenged me to tell my story, with starting with "This is a potato."
Oh, yeah.
That that's the only video I rejected, and to the editor, and we did it again. But it might be coincidental, but you challenged me, Brent. They have to relate to you. You're just one of tens of thousands of realtor until they can relate to something within you. So since then, that video came out, and YouTube asked me if I'd be interested in monetization, which is probably coincidental. Now I just noticed today something that's I've never noticed before, but now they're starting to post all the comments on my public feed that I never put there. So I'm gonna just say amen to what you're saying, that I felt super self-conscious making that video, The Dirty Jobs That Built Me, because it felt like I was what's the word? Egocentric and self-inflating and all that stuff. But
Mhm.
just want to say that I think you're absolutely right. And more importantly, John Maxwell would say you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah. And one other thing I want to remind you of is this, Brent, that your story is timeless. So let's just say you did a video today on Hurricane Ian and you got 1,000 views in the first day. In a year, no one's going to care about Hurricane Ian. So that video has a shelf life. But your story doesn't expire. Your story is just as relevant today as it will be in 20 years. So what I'm telling you, the beauty of YouTube is the fact that if you can build up a big enough library, it only takes one video for you to go viral, which means that if you get one video that does 100,000 views, 1 million views, people then go to your channel and they start looking for your other videos. Do you think they're going to click on the one that says Hurricane Ian update from 2 years ago? Or do you think they're going to click on the one that says The Dirty Jobs That Built Me? So
Yeah, right.
those videos are going to pop off one day. And the thing, what you're doing right now is just you're building a library. Try to make it as evergreen as possible. That's going to have a long shelf life. And that's what I love about your content, is that it is, believe me, Brent, for you to have the amount of subscribers you have and being monetized within your first year, that took us 4 years plus to be monetized, so you're doing exceptionally well. And I encourage all of you guys to tell your story, whether it's on YouTube or you guys are into blogging or whatever it is that you guys like to do. Tell your story as much as you can. Don't be shy. Social media is for people to experiment and to be transparent. And if you can't be transparent with your own story, that's probably your first step, is just to be comfortable with who you are, what you've been through, and make that your superpower. For Brent, the latest video, I'll post it here for you guys to watch. Let me see if I can click on it. I'll post it here in a chat for you guys to watch it. He's come a long way. Brent's been making videos now on my suggestion for the better part of a year, probably what, 7 months in, 6 months in, Brent, something like that.
Started in July.
Yeah.
I made
And
it.
yeah, I'm very proud of him. You've already got people reaching out to you from other parts of the country to buy homes with you. Some of your videos have thousands of views, which is huge. I didn't have any videos do that for quite some time. And you're on the right path. But this is not all coincidental, guys. Brent has had a lot of experience in front of people talking, and so I encourage you guys to do that as soon as possible. And I believe if you had to ask me in 2013 what the future of real estate was, I would tell you prospecting. That was my Bible. If you came to me, I was like, if you don't learn how to prospect, not going to make it. And I helped create a lot of careers that way. If you come to me today and you ask me what's the future of real estate, I'm going to tell you right now, it's YouTube. It's YouTube and it's social media to an extent, but YouTube is number one. And if you can do that, you will have more business than you know what to do with. But it's a slow grind. It's a slow road. But once it starts taking off, you can't stop it. Okay. So if you can look into how to promote yourself on social media and YouTube, even maybe some of the other platforms that have short form video, those are going to propel you. But nothing I haven't seen yet, and I listened to a lot of experts. I haven't seen any platform yet that can compete with YouTube. Okay. And to an extent, you know, some of these platforms may not even be around in a couple of years. So I would definitely double down on YouTube and you know, kind of do as much as I can there. So yeah, that's what I got for you guys today. Any questions? Anyone want to add in? Any of their experiences or any questions?
Very helpful, Louis. I love the part. I love the focus on listing because I know my team has talked, and just recently, I know it's the focus for some on my team, probably more than myself at this point with the listings, but these give us nuggets every 7 days, and I appreciate you taking the time to pull us together, give us an opportunity to listen in, speak if we want to, and it's very helpful.
No problem, brother. Thank you very much. Okay, guys, so we're gonna close out. Thanks, and thank you to everyone for being here. I think everyone gets value out of these, especially myself. I get a lot of value out of this. You know, it's sometimes it's difficult for me to quantify at my level of expertise that I've been in real estate for so long. But I truly see the value in just being here and being able to help you guys and just absorbing your energy and learning from you guys. So I do appreciate you guys making it here on a weekly basis. And let me just see if we close out on our prayer. All right, so let's see if we have one here. Oh, here's, I don't know if you guys have the Bible app on your phones. So sometimes I get suggested a very nice prayer. So I'm going to open up today's prayer and see. I'm just going to go off of that one. Okay. All right. All right. So I'm going to read off of the Bible app. Okay, guys. Father God, I am so grateful that I can call you Father. You are perfect and set apart, and yet you choose to know me and call me your child. When I consider what that means, I am overwhelmed and humbled. You are so good to me. Holy is your name, Father. You are worthy to be praised. In Jesus' name, amen. Yeah, that's awesome, brother. And if you guys haven't checked it out, I strongly suggest you guys look at that Bible app. They got a lot of cool social media type features on there that I think are really, really good to get bite-sized pieces of the Bible and inspiration on a daily basis. And you can also share them with your friends and family. So if you see something there that's like powerful, you can quickly just send it to someone as a text message.
Thank you so much, Louis. I love your Zoom. I'm so glad that you invited me to it a year ago.
No, you're very welcome to be here. Thank you guys for participating. All right. Anyone else?
Have a great day.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Have
Have a great week,
Have
guys.
a good week, guys. Bye.